A lot of people out there want to know who the best Forex broker is because most people don't like the broker they currently have. Problem is, there's so many choices out there. Nobody wants to sit there and sign up for 15 different brokers just to find one they actually like. On top of that, choosing the wrong broker can be very, very costly. So starting in early 2019, I checked out over 50 different international brokers, did a deep dive on all 50, chose my top 2, and then went out and scored you a bonus on both of them. Want to see? One of the most highly anticipated videos that I've ever done is here now, traders. And I want to put this out there right now. This is a video for brokers that Americans cannot use. People of the United States, I got you covered next week. You're going to get your own video. But for now, this does not apply to the country that makes up 26% of my listener base on YouTube. But you are important and you will be taken care of. But in this video, there are other countries too that are not going to be able to use the brokers that I talk about today. Understand that it is not the broker's fault. It is the regulations that are in your country. They would all love your money, but sometimes it's just not worth the hassle, I guess. So the juice isn't worth the squeeze. But I need to go over that first just to make sure you guys aren't wasting your time because this is going to be a longer video, I can already tell. Then we're going to go over the criteria that I used because I asked you, what do you look for in a broker? What are the things that are most important to you? And the same 3 things kept coming up. And they were also the things that I look for in brokers as well. So we're going to go over that real quick so you guys know where I'm coming from and you guys understand why I chose the brokers I chose. Then after that, I'm going to reveal who they are and then talk about them and show you why I think they're awesome. And then at the very end, I'm going to talk about the bonuses that you are going to get if you choose to go this route. Put the links down below in the description. I'm going to say this multiple times so you know where they are because people are going to ask. And understand that this is going to be for real money traders. It's really hard to give bonuses to people who don't deposit actual money into their broker. So this video will not necessarily apply to you. So I just want to get that part out of the way. We will get to the prohibited countries in a moment. But first, disclaimer stuff, as always. This is your money, your choices. If you win or lose, it is totally on you. All this is my personal recommendation with some bonuses attached. And at the end of the day, I'm just a random D-bag with a YouTube channel that you chose to come to. I'm not licensed to give advice of any sort, the financial side of things. So this is just my opinion. Now, let us move on to those countries. Now, even if you are a resident of these countries, and a lot of people in the United States I've seen get around this, there are ways to still trade with these brokers if you know how. Completely legal ways. There are illegal ways as well, and these are the people that go and complain that these brokers stole their money, even though they handed them illegal documents and falsified their information. Do not do that. And we won't talk about this here. It's not something I really talk about because I don't know enough about it. I'm certainly trying to go more offshore with everything I do. And that's the reason I was looking for these brokers in the first place. But if you are able to be a resident of one country and trade as if you were in another country and be more location independent in that way, then great. This won't apply to you. But for the rest of you, there is a pretty healthy list of countries that will not be allowed to trade on either of these brokers that I recommend. And again, don't take this personal. It absolutely breaks my heart, especially some of these countries. But we have to go through this now. I put this in alphabetical order after I put USA on there. So take a look. Now, Canada, this really sucks. I have a lot of Canadians on the channel. Most of you, we will talk about this. I'll say it right now. If you are from British Columbia or Ontario or Quebec, which is where most Canadians live, you will be ineligible for these brokers unless you can find a way around it. And I have quite a few Israelis, and I have a lot of people, believe it or not, from Trinidad and Tobago. So this really stings. But it is what it is. You know, every broker has a whole list of countries that they are not allowed to do business with. So if you are from one of these countries, you will not be able to participate unless you know a way around it. And then on the very first broker I talk about, I should probably go ahead and put this out there now just so you know what you're looking at. I don't get anybody's hopes up. if you are from these particular countries, you will not be allowed on the first broker, but you will be allowed on the second broker, I recommend. Pretty healthy list here. This is where the certain Canadians from certain parts of the country are not going to be allowed, but the rest of you in Canada are. So you're going to want to pay more attention to the first broker I talk about, not the second. As for the rest of you, there are quite a few pretty big countries on here, but there are a lot that I have never seen come through my email inbox before. So not too bad, even though it looks bad. And then on the second one, the list is much shorter. So when I talk about the second broker, if you're from one of these countries, you are not allowed to play. So let's take a look. Some decent sized countries. Brazil, pretty big. India is big. And then all of Canada is going to be unable to trade with the second broker I talk about. So get the nasty stuff out of the way. But again, better to go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off and do it first, just to get it out of the way so I don't waste anybody's time. Now, on to the criteria that I go over when looking for one of these brokers. How are these brokers judged? My personal process. So I've been looking at these for most of 2019 is when I got started, so pretty recent. And then after a while, once I started doing this, I don't know what it was. Like one broker approached me, and then all of a sudden the floodgates just opened, and a bunch of them started coming my way. So I run a very popular YouTube channel for Forex traders. I have one of the top trading podcasts in the country. And I am only saying this because once you get on the radar like that, people want to work with you. And they also know that we spend a lot of time drilling money management and risk management on this channel. So what that also means is they want people who watch this channel even more, because people who understand things like this stay on brokers longer because they don't get wiped out. We talked about this in the last podcast episode I did. Traders who have longevity and can stay on sites for a long time are much more attractive than people who just deposit money and lose it all. And it was particularly nice because the broker who I had tops on my list was one of the ones who actually approached me. I was freaking stoked when that happened, so got them on board right away. And as far as the rest of them, they had to compete with each other, and that is good for you, because my number 2 broker that I'm recommending really sold me. They were a broker I wasn't too familiar with. I had heard of them, but they put in the work, and then both of these guys really came to the plate for you. They realized that they were competing against other brokers to get your business through this channel. I mean, I know this sounds like a humble brag, but you got to understand why you will be getting offers that nobody else is going to get, because they know this following is large, and they also know that most of the people who adhere to what we teach on this channel are going to end up becoming great clients for them. So the bonuses I'm going to show you do not exist anywhere else, and this is why. Excited? Good. Now let's get into the criteria a lot deeper. So the 3 things that really mattered most to most of you, by far, really, were safety, for one, which is totally understandable. It really doesn't matter what your broker can do if there's a chance that they might end up losing all of your money. And I had spoken to quite a few people that had really, really bad experiences with brokers who did just that. If any of you have a horror story about a broker that actually lost your money, put it down in the comments section. I want to hear about this, because some of the stories made my jaw drop. But just with a little bit of common sense, we can easily tackle the safety issue very quickly, but we will definitely go over it. And ease of use was big as well. Nobody wants to sit there and fumble with their broker when they're actually trading their real money. I mean, that's the last thing you want to do. So being able to get orders off quick and easy and without any nonsense behind it was another thing that you guys kept coming back to. And then customer service was really big, because no matter what, there's always going to be an issue. And if it is not handled the right way, and it is not handled by somebody who you completely understand and completely understands you, it is very easy to get quite angry and lose a lot of confidence in the very people you chose to hold your money. And bad customer service continues to be a problem worldwide. And then to a lesser degree, people did mention this, but I want to touch on it real quick. Spreads, they said, were important, but low spreads with brokers nowadays is almost redundant because they pretty much all have them, because at this stage of the game, you cannot afford not to have them. So let's go into this a little more. You're going to see this quite a bit. If you're comparing two brokers, and I did this a lot, what you're going to find is one broker will say, okay, this is our normal spread on euro dollar. And then another broker will have one that's a bit higher. But then once you actually go in at the same time of day and start looking in what those spreads actually are, they're going to look different. Like they might look lower if you're at a busier time of the day, but then once you go to the other broker and look at theirs, sometimes they're even lower. The broker that sat there and said our average spread is 2.1 pips on euro dollar might actually be lower many times of the day than the one that advertised the smaller spreads in the first place. And then when spreads actually start going up a bit during the slower times of the day, you could see another difference. It just matters when you trade, and they're pretty much always going to be nice and low. I mentioned this in the podcast too. Back in the day, there were brokers that had really high spreads. Most of them are either not around anymore, or they got the picture and they lowered all their spreads down so they could compete with everybody else. It's a pretty minor thing to worry about nowadays because of competition. Everything has gotten a lot better in terms of spreads. And for some of you, depending on where you live and what broker you choose, your spreads are going to get even better. Foreshadowing. We'll talk about that. But for now, I want to talk about safety, and I have it number one because, again, if your money is not safe, what good is the broker in the first place? And I have heard my share of horror stories here, but if they would have just followed some pretty simple guidelines, they would have been able to avoid this, so I want to share those with you now. So, what you want to make sure you look for are brokers who reside in particular jurisdictions because the regulations there are very heavy. Brokers that do not have your best interest in mind, or on the other extreme end of things are actually there as a scam and want to take your money, are not going to choose countries like this. They're going to choose jurisdictions where the rules are a lot more laxed. If you don't have a broker from one of these countries, at least make sure that they are governed by one of the larger bodies. These are the two biggest ones in Europe. ESMA, which you might have heard of last year with that big leverage scandal that they cracked down on, and also CISAC is one of the big players in Europe as well. You can have brokers that are governed by larger bodies because these regulations are probably even more strict than the country regulations in a lot of ways. When I went through the two brokers that I chose, I had to go through quite a few hoops just to be on board with them because they don't mess around. But that's a good thing. That's what I want. What you need to be careful of are places that really don't care who is out there promoting them, or certain brokers, and I'm not saying that they're all this way, but if you see brokers that are regulated in countries like this, it doesn't mean they're scam brokers. It doesn't mean they're bad brokers. It just means the chances of that happening dramatically increase. When I heard the war stories, I went back and I looked at some of these brokers, and many of them had these countries in common. Caribbean islands, I think, like Antigua, were one of the main culprits here. I'm not sure, but either way, this is some of the homework you are going to need to do because this is where your money is going. And it doesn't take long to find this stuff out. All right, but once you've done that, also, just to be extra safe, you want to really go with a medium-sized to large broker for a couple reasons. One, you can't, no matter how much money you have, you can't just start a medium-sized Forex trading broker. You need to be around a while. You need to be established. So when you're dealing with one of the bigger players or even a medium-sized player, you know that they've been around a while and they're likely here to stay. And then it doesn't hurt to always have extra capital backing these brokers. And most of these brokers have that, just as a safety net in case everything goes south. And the two brokers that I recommend fulfill all of these requirements, and I will make sure I mention them first. But this is what you want to look for sure. Now, off to ease of use. This is a big one because, again, there's nothing more frustrating than a broker whose tools are hard to use when you're trading your real freaking money. This has happened to us too. We came to a point to where things got a bit confusing, or we didn't get the price we thought we were going to get. And maybe what we did was our fault. We weren't using the platform the way we were supposed to, but why was it hard in the first place? Just make it easy and these things will never happen. But we've all been there. We've all stumbled through whatever trading platform we were using, and it cost us every time. I tell the story about the broker my prop firm uses, which I hate, because I lost 500 pips that was actually a winning trade that just didn't close out the way it was supposed to. Was it my fault? Yes, it was. But I made a mistake that was very easy to make on a broker that was that needlessly complex. It should have been super easy. It wasn't, and I dearly paid for it. So every time I have looked for a broker since then, ease of use has been really important to me, and it turns out it was important to you all as well. So for me, you guys who have been with this channel for a while know that I am pretty minimalist. I don't need much. I've actually made entire videos showing you that you really don't need a lot of this stuff either. But when it comes to ease of use, these are the things you should be looking for. You want trades that execute fast, because if they don't, or you get some kind of delayed execution, then price can move, and it never fails. It always moves in the direction you don't want it to. Now, in 2019, there should be no excuse for this, but it still happens all the time. People get delayed execution, they're unable to cancel out of the trade, and they're just stuck with wherever the price lands. Now, if I do real money trading, I do it all just off of MT4 and MT5, the same place that I chart. And then I use Oanda FX Trade for teaching purposes. But if you prefer to go the route of trading directly off the platform that they have and not off of MT4, MT5, just make sure that platform is easy to use. And they should have really good in-house tutorials available. Because usually when they create these platforms, it's unlike any platform you're going to see anywhere else. And it has all these little idiosyncrasies to it that you got to know. Because again, your money is on the line here. And the last thing you need is to be screwing around with a platform that you're not 100% sure how to use. Also, we've had this too. You enter at a certain price, and then all of a sudden your trade shows up at a completely different price. Or you set a trade to exit at a certain point, and then it just flat out didn't. Moments like that should not happen. Again, make sure it wasn't your fault, because it often is, but sometimes this does happen on the broker side, and the mistakes can be very costly. So if you are currently in a broker and you are experiencing things like this happening more than just maybe once a year, actually it shouldn't even happen that often, if you're in a broker to where things like this mysteriously happen way more than they should, and if that's the case, consider looking elsewhere. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to even have to call customer service. That takes time, and I'm also very tense when I do, because the only reason I'm calling is because something crazy just happened, and I'm in danger of losing my money. There should not be customer service centers out there that have 2-hour waits, yet there is. I will not say names, but there are very, very large ones to where if you call them on the phone, you're waiting a long time. And their live chat is a little faster, but not always that much faster. And it's because a lot of people are having problems with their service, and customer service is not large enough on their end to handle it. This is a sign of a bad broker. Do not allow this to happen to you. Now, if you do have to contact customer service, and we all will at some point, if you are a native English speaker like I am, you have been put through hell for the last 15 years, because customer service all across most native English-speaking countries has been outsourced to countries to where the people, I'm sure, were trying their best, but they were just underqualified, and they weren't native English speakers, so they didn't 100% understand what I was talking about. Everyone has been through this, and this process is absolutely horrifying. I will not buy a Dell computer ever, no matter how great it is or what kind of deal I can get on it, because my first experience with customer service outsourcing was Dell computer. I will never forget it. It sticks in my mind forever. And it wasn't even my computer. I think it was my dad's computer. So I did not have any money really invested in this. I think I just wanted to play a game. But when you have your actual money on the line and you have a problem that involves some technical speak behind it, because they almost always will, you, at this point, really, really want somebody who knows what that problem is and fully understands what you are talking about. But unfortunately, even with some of the largest brokers out there, this is rarely the case. You know right when they pick up the phone. And nowadays, very few things really get my blood going to where I really get frustrated and angry. But non-native English-speaking customer service, whether it's not even their fault, but every time I hear that voice on the phone and I know that the customer service has been outsourced to save money, immediately puts me on edge. And this eliminated my search down pretty good because most people still do this. I researched about 50. I had about 20 of them actually come to me, and I was able to whittle a lot of them down really quick just on this alone because no matter how good they are, I simply won't deal with a company who still does this. Most major companies now are smart enough to know that everybody hates this and they have gone the other way. But for some reason, Forex brokers have been very slow to adapt. But rest assured, native English speakers, you will get one on the phone or on live chat if it ever comes to that. And for some of you who speak other languages, these brokers have people on the ready who speak some of these other languages as well. We'll talk about that. But in the end, safety is an easy one. It's just a matter of doing your homework. But if at this point I don't need much, I'm pretty self-sufficient. If you can just take these two things and just do them better than everybody, that's all I want. That is all I need. I'll do the rest. Just put me in a position to succeed. That's all I freaking want. And my number one rated broker does this better than anybody by far. My number one rated broker in the world is Blueberry Markets out of Australia. I've had a secret boner for Blueberry Markets ever since I first checked them out. I was like, wow, if I could only someday be able to trade with these guys, I absolutely would. Take my money. And then they came calling my way, and I was like, well, look at this. I was probably going to recommend you all anyway, but since you came calling, let's see what else we can do. But let's go ahead and talk about them and get kind of the black and white stuff out of the way, and then I'll tell you why I like them as much as I do. So they are out of Australia, and so that's one of the good countries. And then they are probably mid to high on the dollar scale. They've been around a while. They're pretty well capitalized on their own, but then they have another larger Forex company out of Melbourne, I think, called aint, which also backs them as well. So you get that double coverage we talked about. They are, in my opinion, the Google of Forex brokers. They do not have any of the needless bells and whistles that I don't want. I mean, if you look at their site, there is not much to it. You're going to be a little caught off guard if you're used to looking at most Forex broker sites with all the stuff that they offer, and then come to Blueberry Markets. You're going to be like, why do people even come here? But here's the thing. Everybody absolutely loves this company. It's bonkers. I'm going to take you to their website and show you something real quick. So here we are at the Blueberry Markets homepage. It is very basic. And like I said, does not offer a ton of things for their traders, but that's fine because despite all that, look at this over here. They pulled the double with 5-star reviews from Forex Peace Army and Trustpilot. Now, let me tell you something about Trustpilot and Forex Peace Army. When you're doing a lot of research on brokers, you're going to notice this yourself. They constantly get lower ratings from people, or brokers constantly get lower ratings from people on these two sites more than anywhere else, because it's not really Trustpilot's fault or Forex Peace Army's fault, but for some reason they draw the biggest amount of malcontents and absolute idiots that you're going to find. And when you read these reviews, like you're sitting there screaming at them, like, dude, that was your fault. Why are you blaming the broker? And so I always kind of average down when I see ratings from these two places. Like if I see a 2 or a 3-star rating on a broker from Trustpilot, for example, it's probably a pretty good broker. They just had to deal with a lot of people that don't know what they're doing and decided to blame their broker instead of themselves. But despite all of that, they got 5-star reviews from both. That is incredible. So that just goes to show this isn't just me talking. This is anybody who has ever come across this site and used their site and traded with this site absolutely loves them. You can go check out those reviews yourself. They're really, really nice. But for now, let's go over some quick specs just to get them out of the way. Blueberry Markets is an ECN broker. There's ECN and there's Dealing Desk. The very last podcast episode I did. I'm going to link that one down in the description too. I pretty much went over how it doesn't matter which one you go with. There really are no distinct advantages to one or the other. But just in case you're wondering, they are an ECN broker. You are only allowed to trade directly off of MT4 and MT5. And this is totally fine for me. Some people kind of piss and moan about it. I've actually told people that in order to make things go a lot smoother, they need to start doing this. And they hemmed and they hawed, but they finally went and did it. And then they came back and said, hey, thanks. Once I figured it out, it was pretty easy. And it just so happens there are right around like 15 trillion videos on YouTube as far as how to trade on MT4 and MT5 in any situation that might come up. So I'm totally okay with this. And like I said, that's how I normally trade my real money anyway. And so I am cool with this. Some of you might not be, but I'm telling you, it is very easy to make the transition over time. Native English speakers all the time. This is awesome. If you are one and you want one, you get one. And when you see the bonuses that I'm about to give you on this one, we actually take this even further. I think you're going to like what you see. But if you are not a native English speaker, if you're a native Spanish speaker or Tagalog, they do offer customer service reps that speak natively both of those languages. And for anybody else that needs assistance, they'll use Google Translate. And that's still going to be quite a few people, yet you still saw the ratings. So whatever they're doing it right. But these are the things you can expect with Blueberry. Now, to me, like I said, if you guys remember, I'm dating myself, I'm sure, but if you guys remember the older search engines that used to exist back in the day, there were lots of them. And they were all very ugly, not very functional, didn't really get you to where you wanted to go, and had all this extra crap with it. It was unnecessary. There were ads, all this stuff. It just wasn't cool. Like even Yahoo, which a lot of people used, had a lot of stuff that just you didn't need. And these companies were spending all of their time and money and resources on all this nonsense instead of the one thing that you actually came there for. And so it was really frustrating. And it was all we had, and we didn't know any different, and we just kind of dealt with it until Google came along and said, oh, you come to a search engine to actually search for things? Okay, we're just going to do that, and we are going to do it better than everybody else. Now, a lot of you guys know in the earlier days of Google, this really wasn't the case. You know, some of the searches were still kind of scattered, but they recognized that, and they put all their resources into fixing that. And nowadays, it's not even close. We are super spoiled. Because we have the best search engine on the planet by far at our disposal all the time. And why are they the best? Because that's what they focused on, and they got rid of all the other stuff that didn't matter. Most companies thought you wanted bells and whistles, when at the end of the day, this is what you really wanted the whole time. Do one thing, do it better than everybody else, and you can have my business. So if I'm not gushing enough as is, I'll wrap it up as far as the main things I really like about this company, and I think you will too. Really fast execution. I got to go around and play with it. Never once experienced any kind of slippage of any kind. Made a bunch of little trades at very busy times of the day just to see what it was like. Super fast execution. None of the stuff I really don't need or want, but then again, I'm kind of a curmudgeon on these things. Maybe you like some of this stuff, but I don't need it. I would rather you focus your resources on the things I do need, and that's what Blueberry does. Fully dedicated to the best customer service out there. The reviews tell the story. Go look at them if you like. And you will get, if you want, a native English speaker all the time. Thank freaking God. Now, when it comes to my number 2 highest rated broker, the things that make them different are the things I think a lot of you are really, really going to go crazy for. There are particular subsects of my listener base that are going to go absolutely nuts when I show them this. So I am very proud to present to you a broker that I think a little more of you might have heard of before, but maybe didn't know a whole lot about, and that's markets.com. I didn't know them as well as I did Blueberry when they first approached me, but they really won me over, and I want to show you why. I think I would be totally remiss if I did not bring this to you in some way. So let's get into who they are. Their main office is in London, and they also have offices in South Africa and Australia as well. They are also regulated by SISEC, which we spoke about, and I actually had to do more stuff to work with markets.com than I did with Blueberry. Like, SISEC does not play around, but that's good. At the end of the day, if I'm going to recommend a broker, I want them to be as safe as possible. And they also have heavy capital in front of them and behind them. This is a larger broker, probably larger than Blueberry. I don't know that for sure, but I'd imagine they are. And they're also backed by a FTSE 250 company called Playtech. So they also have that double capitalization that we talked about before. Now, all of this is the boring part. The super fun part is all of the things that you can do on this site. And when I say fun, I also mean can be very, very lucrative as well. So let's get into the specs real quick, then we'll start getting into that. They're a dealing desk broker. They are not an ECN broker. So like I said, it doesn't matter to me. I don't care who I'm dealing with. Just give me the things I need, and I'm happy. But if some of you care, so they're a dealing desk. You can trade off of MT4, MT5 as well, but they also do have a proprietary platform, and there's lots of tutorials on how to use it on the site. I got to take a look at it. Looks pretty clean, pretty easy. I didn't actually go in and play with it, but I did mess around with the MT4 and MT5. And when I did, I found all of the things that you could trade and chart on it. Now look, I said at the very beginning of the video, sometimes too many choices can be a bad thing if you're just unsure where to go. But once you're there, if you have a bunch of options in front of you and a lot of them are really attractive and not offered anywhere else, you have something. So let's go to the main site real quick, and then we'll jump on their MT4 and I'll show you all this. So here is their main website. And you have all your regulatory stuff over here if you want to take a look. They are pretty well covered. And they do mostly CFDs, which if you're unfamiliar with CFDs, it may seem a little daunting at first, but CFDs actually make many things a lot easier to trade. So they give you a list of them, and you're going to notice right away that they tell you all the cool things that you can trade on here. You're going to notice the leverage is pretty small, however. That might have something to do with the fact that they're CFDs. For those of you who are not familiar with this site, I did a podcast a while ago. I'm going to link that one down below too, talking about the proper leverage that most traders should use. And I'll just go ahead and cut right to it. I use 20-to-1 leverage all the time. I set it there and I leave it alone and I don't touch it. And that is all I ever need. I have never once come close to using up all that leverage because I have proper risk management. And if you do too, you won't need any more than this either. So even though these numbers seem low, rest assured you really don't need much more than this. Even if it was 10-to-1, and some of these instruments are, I'm fine. And then they'll show you the average spread on these. Like I said, don't get too comfortable with these numbers right here. We're going to talk about that soon. But they talk about all the stuff you can trade there. So let's go back real quick. Then they have the tools that you would expect a major broker to have. So if you want to look at stuff on fundamental analysis, they have news events and little videos that come out a lot, technical analysis stuff, and then some sentiment tools that I have never seen before. I know how you guys like these. I don't use them myself, but they are super fun. I do like to tweet about them. Look at this. They claim to be able to tell you where insiders are going, where the hedge funds are going. There might be something there. I haven't really given this much look, but it's pretty damn cool, and I am certainly going to look at it and see if I can do anything with it. Because if you can, it is certainly worth having. But you would never have it if you weren't with markets.com. So this is a really cool thing I think they have that a lot of brokers don't, or they have something like it and it just really sucks and doesn't help you. So check that out when you go take a look at the site. And what else here? Oh, it kind of cuts off. You can't see it, but you can change the language on this to any of the languages that they feature. So if you want to put the whole thing in Danish, you do that, and then everything you see, once it loads, is in Danish, just like that. And we'll talk about some of the customer service options they have as well. But let me get this back on English now. And while this is happening, I want to show you everything that markets.com offers as far as what you can trade, but I want to go to MT4 to show you. And fans of this channel are going to understand why. So let's go ahead and do that now. So here we are at the Euro-Dollar daily chart. Now, what makes no-nonsense Forex what it is? We put together a system of indicators, and usually not the basic indicators that everybody's heard of. We go off the grid, and we find the really good ones. Absolute strength oscillators, one I've talked about before that I really like. And we put them together, and we do amazing things with it. And we can only do that on MT4. So many people have asked, can I trade other markets the same way you guys do things here? I'm like, some yes, but some no. I just don't think the technology exists yet. But let's see what markets.com can do. So we'll go through the different markets. Now, you guys probably already saw on the other screen that you can do metals. So there's platinum, for example. It has all the metals. It has a ton of indices. There's the Nikkei right there. And you can also trade bonds. And there's the US 10-year note. So far, nothing I haven't seen before, but the sheer amount of these things is pretty staggering. I was really impressed with that. I think when you go the CFD route and you get a bunch of them under your umbrella, you can really offer some cool things. So just within those 4 places, I know you can already trade a ton of different currency pairs on Forex, but in metals and indices and bonds, they really give you a lot more options than I have seen anybody else offer in the past. But check this out. I have gotten this question a lot, and I have never been able to answer it in the affirmative until now. On MT4, here's Amazon. They got stocks. They got lots of stocks. They don't have all the stocks, but they have lots of them. And they got European stocks too. There's Heineken. I can't believe this. Maybe this has been around on other brokers, but I've never seen it, and I've looked at a lot of them. Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to enter the stock game at some point in my career. This changes everything. I mean, why wouldn't you? Traders, a lot of you are having a lot of success trading the no-nonsense Forex way. Imagine if you could replicate that on the stock market. I don't know if it can or cannot happen, but I can't wait to find out. But I need MT4 for this because they have the indicators that we used. And I was never able to put the two together. I've always wanted to, but could just never find a way. Until markets.com came along. And I saw this, and I had to do a triple take and make sure it was actually what I thought it was, but you're looking right at it, guys. On markets.com, you can trade lots of stocks on MT4 and chart them there as well. This is huge. Oh, and by the way, I left something out. There's Litecoin. You can do the same with crypto. Not a ton of crypto. They have Bitcoin futures, Ethereum, Litecoin, Ripple, Dash, and I think that's it, maybe one other. But they got the big boys. And you don't have to actually go through all the rigmarole of owning the coin because these are CFDs. I've never seen the ability to do this before on stocks and crypto as well. And now you can just have all of this on one site. Now, some of you are pure Forex traders, and that's great. Blueberry might be a better option here, or you might like what markets.com brings to the table. But if you want to expand into stocks or crypto the no-nonsense Forex way, then you at the very least need to add on markets.com as well. Because not only does it do all the things that we're looking for really well too, but you get options like this on top of it all. Absolutely bananas. So for those of you who want to know more about CFDs, you saw on the main site that markets.com has some information. I'm also going to give you another link down below in the description if you want to learn more. But that is how they're able to bring all of this to us, and I think it is just fantastic. So let's keep it going. All the reasons I love markets.com, amongst other things, are that also very fast execution. I played around with the MT4, didn't have any problems there. Really good customer service. You will always get somebody who is from the UK, South Africa, or Australia, all native English speakers. I used their live chat because I actually did have a problem. I couldn't download the MT4 in the first place, and it was solved probably as fast as I've ever had an issue solved in live chat. So thumbs up there. And there are also native speakers in Spanish, German, Italian, and Arabic as well. Not always on hand, but mostly on hand during the hours where people in these countries typically trade. But they will have them on hand as well. You can trade everything that you trade under one broker, and you can chart it all on MT4. Holla frickin' Luya. Never thought I'd see the day. I never knew why more brokers, or any brokers that I saw, offered this. I thought there was some kind of weird regulation getting in the way, because why would you not allow us to do this? But wonder no longer. Here we are. Now it's time for the bonuses. It is what many of you have been waiting for. I have good ones. The only thing is, not everybody is able to use them. Let's just go over the requirements really quick, because again, I don't want to get people's hopes up. As we have already discussed, you cannot be in a prohibited country, but we went over that already. But just remember it. And then the minimum deposit for Blueberry Markets is $1,000. I do not know if you are depositing with a different currency, if it is any different. Give them a call. They'll be able to answer this question for you. But $1,000 minimum deposit there, and far less actually for markets.com. Now, again, this has everything to do with their regulations, so don't be mad at them for this. Honestly, they're so regulated that the fact that they are able to offer you guys anything is pretty remarkable. So I'm really happy. These guys have really done everything they can here, but just understand that this is something that they cannot do anything about. So I hope that doesn't knock a lot of you guys out of the game, but those are the rules. And if you are still eligible, just know that these bonuses do not even happen unless you go through the links in the description that I've given you. These bonuses only apply to me. They only apply to NoNonsenseForex.com and the No Nonsense Forex YouTube channel. So if you are still eligible to get bonuses, let's tell them what they've won. For Blueberry Markets, if you go this route, here's what you will get. You get free money. So you will get a 10% bonus tacked on to your initial deposit. And they won't go higher than $2,000. So if you'd put in, I think, $20,000, you would get $2,000. That's how that works. Yeah. And also, don't get any bright ideas. It doesn't kick in right away. You'll have to ask them how this works. You can't just go in and get the bonus and then withdraw all your money. That's not how that works. They are not idiots. But you do get a bonus just for showing up and going through the link. You will also get, for those of you who are really big on customer service, just to sweeten the pot even more. If you had gone to the reviews that I showed you on the website, you will see a lot of people raving about a man named Ben.clay. You will get Ben.clay for the entirety of your time at Blueberry Markets as your own personal customer service concierge. He's going to help you with onboarding, with depositing, with your bonus, and every step along the way. If you have any issues at all, he had stepped up. I said, Ben, be very careful what you wish for here, but he says, yes, I will take them all on, which I thought was absolutely nuts, but I did not argue it. When these guys say they are committed to customer service, they mean it. They walk the walk, and Ben will be available, he said, 16 hours a day, for anything you might need. Please do not ask him stupid questions. He is taking on a bigger responsibility than I think he realizes. But just for taking your mouse and hovering over a link and clicking on it, you will get all this in return. I think a lot of you would have joined up anyway, but why not have some extras while you're there? Now for markets.com, here is what we have. Extra low spreads. I told you when I showed you those spreads on the site, don't get comfortable with those. They are offering you spreads that are pretty decently lower than what you just saw. Some of them, I had a chance to look over them. Some were slightly smaller than what I see out there. Some of them were well smaller. Like I almost peed myself when I saw the pound Aussie spread that they were offering. So in a way, this is free money as well. Could be quite a bit of free money, depending on how often you trade. But this is the way they do it. Now, I should have talked to them about this. I know how heavily regulated they are. I was going to show you what those spreads were. I just didn't know if I was allowed to do it. And as I am making this video right now, it is 2 or 3 in the morning over in the UK. So if I am able to, I will put them on the blog. But you can just go ahead and ask for them when you give them a call. And on top of this, they sweeten the pot even more. If you're outside of Europe, you may be eligible for an extra deposit bonus. All right. And what you're going to do to find these things out, all these things out, is talk to a man named George Troop. He has not been able to go as far as ben.clay did and just take everything on, but he is going to be your onboarding guy. He is going to handle this and maybe this if it applies, and then getting you guys all set up the way you need to on markets.com and answering any additional questions that you have. I'm going to put his contact information in the description along with Ben's. Again, they are really sticking their necks out here. Please do not make them regret their decisions by just pestering them with a bunch of questions. Quality over quantity, and please do not approach them unless you're serious. But these are the bonuses that they are offering you and only you. So in conclusion, check these brokers out. Do some digging if you want and see what you think. In the end, the decision is always yours. But use the resources that I gave you, in particular those bonus links. You know, it's money for nothing, and then the pips for free. And then if I see anything else along the way, I'm certainly going to bring it your way. But as far as all the research that I have done, these two really did come out on top. And whether you go this route or not, at least I was able to give my opinion on these two brokers that I'm really fond of and put them out there. So if you are brand new, if this is the first video from No Nonsense Forex you have ever seen, but you like the way I explain things and you're interested in the way we trade, subscribe, hit the bell. Now, there are no channels like this out there. Now, this channel was created in response to all the Forex education I was seeing out there before. What I will also do is take you straight to the main website if you're new to this and you want to learn how we do things. The homepage of the website really does have you covered. I'm going to have a little thing in the description that says Start Here, along with a link, and you click that link, and then you can get started on what we do at No Nonsense Forex. But I hope you all enjoyed the video nonetheless, as long as it was, and my fellow Americans, you're up next week. Get ready for that. Go get it.